All right, everyone, welcome to Poetry Street. This is a room without a roof where every voice is heard. Maggie and I are extremely happy that you have joined us today. And Happy New Year to everyone. I'm so glad that it's 2022. Now, although you are in the comfort of your own homes, no matter where you are located in the United States, we are all guests here. Poetry Street acknowledges the indigenous people and pay tribute to the respected elders of this land. Here on Eastern Long Island, we are situated on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Lenape, who are the original caretakers, the Canarsie, the Shinnecock, the Reckonwack, the Mansay, and the Haudenosaunee. And we acknowledge and respect the many indigenous people who live on this land and pay tribute. And we're so happy for their ongoing contributions to our area and to our lives. At this time, I would like to introduce you to my co-host, the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented author of Sleepless Nights, Maggie Bloomfield.
Hi, everybody. Chip, can you mute everybody? Is that
I
possible?
will mute everyone, and then you just need to unmute yourselves. And
Okay.
just as a rule of thumb, if you're not speaking and if you are unmuted, please mute yourself so we won't hear your background noises during the readings. Thank you. Okay, Maggie, you need to.
We're so excited. We're so excited to be back after the Christmas cancellation on so many levels. Welcome. Poetry Street is a venue that was started really about 8 years ago by Susan Dingle and Bubby Brown in Riverhead, New York, at the Blue Duck Bakery. We lost that venue, sadly, and then, of course, we lost the world. So we are so delighted to be here on Zoom. Happy to see all your faces, some familiar, some not. Welcome if it's your first time. Our mission is diversity, and our history is growing, and hopefully will continue to grow. Today we have, well, the way we've always done this is we have features and then an open mic. If you'd like to read at the open mic after our fabulous features, please notify Chip in chat. Could we be being Zoomed? I mean, whatever that's called. Anyway, I'll tell you about next month at the end of the program, but for today we are delighted to have three wonderful features. And we are going to start this afternoon's proceedings with the wonderful Vivett Dukes. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. Vivett Dukes is a writer and advocate and an advisor for the New York Times, Upfront, and Scholastic Action and Scope magazines. She's a blogger for New York School Talk, co-CEO, co-founder of SpeakYaTruth.org and One Voice blog magazine, and host of the bi-weekly Safe Space Convos Twitter chat in partnership with the nonprofit educational organization Savenzo. She's an old friend of Poetry Street, a good friend of Poetry Street, and a wonderful poet. Please help me welcome Vivett Dukes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maggie. So good to be here. I'm in good company. I'm with friends. So welcome again, everybody. I haven't felt, hi. I have written on the blog. So some of the pieces you're going to hear tonight are oldies but goodies, some of my favorite that are hold near and dear to my heart, and others are some that have come to me during the course of the last few months and even weeks. I wrote something today in preparation. I was inspired by the snow and by my husband. So perhaps I should start with that. And it's aptly titled Snowy Saturdays. Snowy Saturdays. Snowy Saturdays always make me think of you, how much I love to be held in the warmth of your arms, with no cares for who or what is around. Those frosty flurries can amass and abound. Just lay me down underneath you, scoop my ever so willing body with your all-knowing hand, the embrace I long for all week. Snowy Saturdays are a hazy days of the silly, crazy way we just are together. Whether the weather eases up or keeps coming down, snowy Saturdays will always be our fave. Saturday, 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 it's a Saturday, yeah, yeah. That one's dedicated to my husband, John. He is one of my biggest inspirations. And I realized, I mentioned at the top of the hour that I've been teaching remotely for the past 18 months, and that synergy between my students and I was quite different being in a remote environment. And I knew my students inspired me, but I didn't realize how much until we were so unceremoniously disconnected from one another. I really miss them, and I'm grateful to now be again in person with my students at Stony Brook, and hopefully my writing will get more fervor and increase. Um, I don't have my time, so Maggie, let me know when it's time, okay? So this poem I did write, there is a lot of noise. I hear it too. I'm not sure what it is, but we're just going to go through it. And this poem was written I wrote it on March 10th, 2021 at 7:49 a.m. And I asked myself, how do you feel? This is my response. I feel flawed and full of the pull of the weight of what soberly threatens me. I'm running this race at a pace and with a cadence that makes sense now. Before, it was hectic, almost wrecked it, almost checked out, lost my whole clout on the wrong route. Lately, the crooked been straight though. Learned to hold my head, and instead of listening to the mundane chatter of everything and everyone that doesn't matter, I choose you, boo. That's right, you, baby girl. 'Cause you mean the world to me. You are my everything. I am enough. I'm up to snuff. I feel flawed and full, yet I know I will survive. I will thrive. I will live life lovely and free to be me. How do I feel? That's how I felt on the morning of March 10th, 2021 at 7:49 a.m. The next poem I'd like to read to you. A lot of my poems are inspired. Thank you for yeah, I need energy from y'all. So, I mean, you can unmute. I love to hear the snaps and the claps. Thank you, Karen, for throwing up your emojis. Give me hand claps. I'm here for it. I love it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, and thanks so much for pointing that out, Vivett, is that in the reactions, there are hand claps and a thumbs up. You know, and so I'm sure that she would appreciate that as well. And you can also put your comments into the chat. I have not unmuted anyone because I don't want that noise to happen. And I've been keeping an eye on anyone coming in and unmuting themselves because I don't want your reading to be disturbed. So that's the only reason why I haven't unmuted everyone. And at the end of your reading, I will unmute everyone so that they can show you appreciation and then mute them again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This next poem is a fave of mine. I wrote it in a classroom and I was learning about Robert Moses and how he intentionally divvied up Long Island and the plan of segregation that he diabolically constructed. And I was very upset by what I was learning. And so this poem entitled Doomed was born out of that experience. Doomed. In America, when you're Black and poor, it feels like you're doomed, set up to fail, a life lived constantly on the third rail of those tracks from the wrong side of town, measures from every angle designed to keep you down in the dumps, breasts with lumps but no health care. Children can barely jump rope without landing on needles from dope fiends. Life's so mean when it's doomed. Doomed to get left back, doomed to go to jail, doomed to be fat, doomed to ail in mind and body and soul and spirit, just going through motions but not really in it, doomed to use stamps to buy your food, doomed to grin and bear it, while others blatantly rude, thus elevating stress. Life's a mess when systematically every opportunity is oppressed and from every angle you're just stressed, stripped of dignity, ripped of humanity, longing for serenity, needing some sanity, wanting, needing, pleading for so much more. But in America, when you're Black and poor, it feels like you're doomed. Sadly, I wrote that poem. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Lakeisha, my good friend, sister, colleague. She's here. Ashe. Thank you, my sister. The thing is, I wrote that poem like in 2008, but not much has changed since then. So that's the really sad, sobering part of it all. This next poem is not mine. It is written by a young man by the name of Terrell Jonikin. I met him during my travels this summer. I went to Galveston, Texas, and he was selling his poetry, self-published his book, and he was selling his book like at a fair in a school that I just happened to pop in. The teacher and me wanted to know what's going on in that school. So I went in and he was there selling his book and I bought it and read it. It's entitled Blurry Scenes of Blue and Gray. And I'd like to honor him today by reading one of his poems, if you would be so gracious to allow me to. The first poem is entitled The Heart. Staring through the views of green, I see nothing but the blue open sky. Trees blur in my mind as I lose sleep over things I can't control. It starts draining my soul, but I keep my eyes on the road. Don't look at what they're doing. They aren't you. You know what you can do. So why are you being blue? When you alone know you're the truth. Everything you've been doing until now is the proof. You've proved yourself a soldier pushing it since your youth. Doubting, steady pouting about losing your options, desperately wanting profit, but walking with empty pockets, not looking at the future you've been building for yourself, nearsighted vision, so you think there's nothing left. It's not that. You're a beast and nothing's stopping your flow. You set up the stage, so why are you stopping the show? Snap out of it. I know you hear me. I know you feel me. You know that I love you dearly. It's not the voice of reason, an angel, or even Jesus. I've been trying to save your soul since I saw it break to pieces. They don't know what's in your head, just me. I'm trying to motivate you to go be all you can be. Next time you lose your mind, Just know I'm here for the cause, and I'll never let you quit until I give you a pause. I am your heart. Terrell Jonikin, Blurry Scenes of Blue and Green, a chapter book of poetry and prose. He's a young black man who was just so humble. But when I read his book, I was like, oh my God, what a talent we have before us. So I'm hoping that in sharing his work, it will go even further. Here's the back cover of it. So thank you. We always want to elevate and celebrate our up and coming poets, right? Those who have ventured enough to take what is in their head and heart and share it in a public manner. I always want to honor that. This next, what I'd like to read next is actually a letter that I wrote to my husband. The first few years of our marriage, my husband and I were separated due to incarceration. As Chip knows well, that is a population of our society that I'm very near and dear to, for I am them. And not just those who are physically incarcerated, their families deal with their own measure of incarceration because we are with them. And so we wrote our own epistles of love to each other for years. And this was one of the first letters that I wrote to John. So I said to him, I wrote it on the 29th of July, 2015 at 10:39 p.m. at home. But then I put a side note on the 3rd of August, 2015 saying, so I wrote you this letter, but I lost it. I searched all over, cleaned up, prayed to find it, and voila, I found it under my bed today. So I'm sending it off to you now. Enjoy. Dear John, hey pen pal, what's up? You were in my thoughts and ran through my mind during my evening run tonight, so I figured I'd write you another letter. After all, there's no rule that says we must only correspond once per day now, is there? Insert smiley face. So, what's your favorite color? What genre of music do you like best? What's the last book you read? Do you have dreams? What are they? I know you're probably like, yo, chill with the barrage of questions, LOL. I hope I'm not being or coming off as too strong. You said you know me, so you should also know and remember how inquisitive I am. It's only fair that I answer the very questions I ask of you, so here goes. My favorite color is purple. My favorite genre of music is neo-soul. You know, Jill Scott, Amel LaRue, Erykah Badu. The last book I read was a memoir of Hope Solo, the women's soccer goalie. She's an amazing woman. It's an amazing read. Yes, I have dreams. Too many to tell you all. But one dream I have, I'm actually fulfilling and living, which is becoming a runner. I admire them so. Runners are so fly. Insert dreamy eyes. I look forward to hearing back from you, Mr. Dukes. Until then, take care of yourself and remember, always keep your eyes on the prize. So that was the beginning, and this is our letter. When you're incarcerated, letters are life-giving. You look forward to those letters, and I felt like I was in, I don't know, like an 18th century novel where they only could correspond through letters, and I would run to the post office box and check the letters every day, and it was just a beautiful documentation of our love that I can go back to and look at. And in preparation for today, it allowed me to go back and look, and it was beautiful.
Maybe two more, Vivett?
That's great, yep. This poem I wrote for two dear friends of mine, Anthony and Camille. I had the honor of writing this poem for them on their wedding day and reciting it. And they didn't give me many parameters. They just believed in my gift and said, we'd love for you to write this poem for us. And it's entitled, What God Has Joined Together, for Anthony and Camille. In this day and age where love's perceived as a joke and all life's a stage, people caught up in appearance and charades, from love and hip hop to drop it like it's hot, it's no wonder so many are dismayed. But with Anthony and Camille, true love was revealed, and before our eyes, their love was displayed. They're really awesome, these two, on some modern day romance, not merely booze, with a blend of the old and the new. Camille, he thought, she's pretty in the face and that body, amazing grace, but she's always got all these kids. Anthony, she pondered, he's all right, but I ain't letting my heart take flight before I see where his heart's really hid. Now, Lord knows Camille ain't easy. Nothing with her is breezy. She stands firm on that which she believes. He's no pushover either, not at all a people pleaser, and will walk away before the Holy Spirit he grieves. She's a woman unlike any other, and through seeing her with kids, he got a glimpse of who she is as a woman, a teacher, and future mother. Anthony liked what he saw. In fact, he was in awe of the beautiful mind she'd been given. So he watched and he waited, he gazed and debated if this is whom all his days he would live. They lived and they knew, closer to one another they grew, but not in the ways of the world. For he's a man after God, keeps his life in God's charge, and truly she's God's very own girl. From Mapen to Brewer, who would have knew a love story like theirs would come true? A testament we see right before you and me of when God goes before your I do's. So join me today as we witness and we pray to our Heavenly Father above. May they never forget where they're at, what they left, and the truth of God's unfailing love. No matter the weather, good times or whatever, let no man put asunder what God has joined together. Dedicated to Anthony and Camille Campbell. And they're going on 6 years of marriage, 3 kids later, and I'd like to think my poem had something to do with it. And let me see. I don't want to force it. I feel like I'd like to end on that note with that love.
Okay.
Story. I have some other ones, but I also just want to pay homage to the poets who have influenced me so greatly and have poured into who you see and hear before you today. I have them behind me, one of which is Nikki Giovanni. We share the same birthday, June 7th, and it was her book, like Cotton Candy on a Rainy Day, that truly inspired me as a teenager to write more seriously. And of course, I would not be a poet without Maya Angelou. Who, yeah, I don't need to say anymore because if you're here, you know who Maya Angelou is. I just want to make sure I always pay tribute to my ancestors and those who've come before me and paved the way. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I'm going to unmute everyone so that we can all show our appreciation to Vivett. And Vivett is such a beautiful person. And she looks like she's like 26. You know, she's very accomplished, and you read her full bio on poetrystreetontheroad.com and our Poets page, #2. Vivett, thank you so much. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Very
Great.
moving. Thank you.
That was so glorious. I can't even. It was just beautiful, Vivett, and you look beautiful, Vivett. He's right. You look about 26. And If there is time at the end of this reading, we would like to bring the features back for one more poem. So if you want to give some thought to that, please do. I'm going to introduce the next featured poet, who's quite a guy. Richard Bronson is the current poet laureate of Suffolk County. He's published 5 collections of poetry. Richard serves on the faculty of the Center for Medical Humanities, Bioethics, and Compassionate Care at the Renaissance School of Medicine at Stony Brook University. He has received the Poem of the Year Award of the American College of Physicians. Please help me welcome Richard Bronson.
Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for inviting me. I look forward to this. I'm getting over bronchitis and I have a possible cough, so I brought water with me, so I apologize for that. But my voice is still strong. So I tend to write in 2 styles. One is basically lyrical, and it's pretty much out of the imagination, and the other is narrative. A lot of it comes from my work and from sort of stories that bubble up. I decided to read primarily the lyrical poems this evening. And the first are a few are from I tend to write sort of series, and these were basically from a series matching a poem to each month. I'm not going to read all the months. I read a few of those to start. And the first is January. Of course, January was sort of into the darkness at times. I have a sensitivity to light and darkness. January. I have come to know the melancholy of Monday morning roads leading toward the incarceration of offices, the anvil of their hours. I know the sadness of blue evenings as dusk passes into darkness, street lamps switching on, illuminating the long way home. And I know the dark solemnity of empty houses awaiting their occupants, and the solitude of autos that carry cloistered drivers alone on night highways, each at the end of days. I grew up on ice skates. I was sort of a skating bum for a while. And for a number of years, I was skating pretty regularly until my hips were out. This is a poem that comes from that. It was in the February of the months. Doc Blades, he's called, wears his speed skates barefoot. He's an orthopedic surgeon, so I've heard, but wouldn't know. And they say, beware, his blades will cut you if you're slow. Ask him why he skates. He'll tell you about the long glide, strong stride, steel on ice, prow of the pack, full moon howl, flying through the night, mantra of the blade, heed the meat, rhythm of the motion. I heard him say as he raced away, high on ice, the stars sing to me. The next poem, I'm skip to April, it's from a small series called 5 Portents of the Future. This is one of the 5 portents. And it's called The Language of Birds. The language of birds. Whistling, warbling, everywhere you think they sing their songs for love. But I've learned the language of birds. Know they're wise and sing, their time will come. Owls watching, waiting on the night. Hawks soar in silent judgment, their keen eyes looking down upon us. And crows wear black, congregate in the synagogue of trees, pray to the one God for the coming of the Messiah. They too know the time will come when pigeons rummage empty city streets, air filled with wild flutter of starlings in giddy celebration, for the sky theirs again. The portents weren't looking good in those 5 portents. I'm going to jump to July, and to a place that's one of my wife's and my favorite place to visit. It's in the San Juan Islands, Orcas Island, which is in Puget Sound, north of Seattle. And in the summertime, when there's no rain, it's just a beautiful place. And this comes from that. There are a number of islands, 5 islands, all joined by an inter-island ferry, the state ferry. Dawn Ferry at Orcas Island for Susan. You threw a jacket over your nightgown. I struggled in darkness into jeans, and we raced onto the Widow's Walk to watch the ferry approach. Orion dominated the dawn sky, his belt a trio of stars. 2 tiers of light, silent on night water, floated towards the pier. Across the channel, firefly headlights flickered within the dark forest, racing toward the ferry slip. You stood by me watching the gathering day extinguish the stars in tones of rose, and red Madrona burst into flame. A voice announced through a loudspeaker, "Cars leaving for Lopez Island, board now." And gulls appeared, sounding the call to prayer from their high places. Heeding their command, we returned to bed, the temple of our love, tasted the power of Eros in celebration of the day. I'm going to skip to October. So this is a poem that was just triggered. The prompt is walking through a spider web, and my imagination went wild, which I wanted to do. So these are poems of sort of imagination. In the season of spiders, I have walked through webs, complex designs of the weavers who sleep the day away, resting from their nocturnal vigilance. It is that time when cicadas still sing, and the gibbous moon accompanies one through the night. I do not begrudge them their night work, that I have taken the vacuum to their resting places for fear of entanglement, their little ones, ready to burst from the nest, float on the wind toward distant places they are denied their future. I have often wondered what special silk spiders would make, and how the lowly worm is chosen by the Chinese for their trade. If I could wear a spider silk cape, the spectral blaze of stars glistening in its folds, I'd fly on arachnid wings, cousin to the bat, companion to the moon, a night traveler in the season of spiders. November. Thanksgiving. This is a poem. Well, it speaks for itself. It's for my wife, for Susan. Thanksgiving. I awaken in soft light to thee and me, bodies conforming to each other. My breath blows gently onto your shoulder, lips touching soft skin. If I were to open my eyes onto the day, this fragile moment would pass, and I've grown aware in the space between sleep and waking of a thought. Our breaths, the slow movement of air passing in and out, minute by minute, mingle in this bedroom over the years as our lives have, and I must give thanks. Now, I'm going to jump to a couple of other poems. If I've been traveling somewhere, and sometimes there are exotic places, I like to write about a poem about it and try to save it as a poetic postcard. So here, I was down in a small town the size of Cleveland in Ecuador. My younger son was getting married there, a long story. The town's called Loja. Loja, of the high Sierra, of woolen blankets and balmy days. City of 1,000 roosters crowing the dawn and sunrise bells. Before in the morning, drunks rousting by my hotel window, and garbage trucks that sing me their little song, give me your litter. as they make their early morning rounds. It is a clean city of many churches and their bells calling in the morning, calling in the evening, the faithful to Mass that starts, completes the day. It is a blessed city, founded by Spaniards who brought with them Jesus, the cross, the crown of thorns. In every church, the nailed limbs, the wounds that bleed. He who suffered for us, it is said, and the mother who birthed him, the miracle of the Virgin everywhere, the mother who intercedes. It is a wondrous city. Next, I'm jumping to Kyoto, Japan. So there's Japan's an imperial city over 1,000 years old. Lay out on the grid there. Buddhist temples everywhere. And this one is called Enryaku-ji, and it's on a small mountain north of the city. Enryaku-ji. I ascend Haizan, a stranger amongst pilgrims carrying bento boxes on a summer day, high above the steaming 1,000-year-old city. White butterflies, prayers of folded paper, festoon trees that line the paths toward the main hall, its column portal. Chaperoned by temple gongs, we cross the cobblestone yard, climb steps past rows of cast-off shoes, into a realm of incense and prayer. Forbidden to stand, I scuttle crabwise on my knees past the altar, look down upon silent monks at desks beneath me, studious copying ancient sutra of utmost importance, bald heads reflecting faint light from ornate lamps. And far beyond, my eyes adapting to darkness, 3 bodhisattvas beckon, huge, golden, and smiling. So the bodhisattvas are disciples of the Buddha who had reached the point of enlightenment, but decided not to take the step, but to come back to the world to help lead others toward enlightenment. And then the next of the travel poems, Santa Caterina del Sasso, a very tiny hermitage on the northern side of the cliffs of Lake Maggiore in northern Italy. Santa Caterina del Sasso. Death resides here in the cooing of white mourning doves that ride thermals in the evening of the day, high above Lake Maggiore, and in the deep murmured Latin of a black-robed Benedictine who prays according to the rule, while Baroque saints smile benignly from the chapel ceiling upon empty rows of pews. Death and the mummy of the holy hermit, ligneous brown as ancient carved wood, who waits the kiss of the Virgin to whom he had prayed a lifetime in solitude, his corpse carried in medieval times through plague-stricken streets by monks of a now disbanded order. Death and the pale winter light which fills the chapel, suffusing through stained glass, illuminating its golden altar, and he who suffers on his cross. Now I'm going to jump a little bit, and I'm going to read 2 poems that come out of my medical practice. I'm a reproductive endocrinologist, and my main interest is trying to help couples establish families. These poems deal with in vitro fertilization, test tube fertilization. The first is called Ode to an Everyman. I hold you in my hands, an embryo no bigger than a dust mote in a droplet, one of many nurtured in the dark of an incubator this day, conjured from sperm and egg, each a life to be fulfilled, ascendance then decay. What might you become once I place you there? A cut purse or a list, or die a little death within the womb. So only about a third of embryos, 40%, will actually establish a pregnancy. So when my wife was pregnant years ago, the only thing the obstetrician could do is actually feel the size of the uterus. They couldn't even tell for quite a while whether someone was pregnant, and now it's quite different. So this was taken from a moment, the first time I saw a beating heart would be from embryo a couple of weeks into a pregnancy. It has to do again with in vitro fertilization. Laboratory assisted reproduction, like IVF. Add eggs from cloistered places, from gonads goaded into gravid opulence and sperm suffused with ancestral potency. Then gametes join in dark synthetic climes, their primal plans to present times. Formed from their infatuated union, transferred by my tinker's hands to your waiting womb. The embryo has its way and names you mother. I have often probed that fecund place, and in the dark vista of my sonic vision, sought the motion of a nascent heart, bearing witness to life, beating ceaselessly within us, joining all creatures, past, present, future, from the first conjugal meeting. And then the last poem I'm going to read changes the mood. There was a time I was invited to a baptism, a guest at communion. The pastor wipes the chalice clean as one by one they come to drink. Some place the host within, and their mouth some place the host within their mouth, then sip. Others dip into the wine, partake as one, the body and the blood. Between hymns and homily, the pastor takes a handkerchief, blows his nose. From these same hands hold the cup of wine, with an eye for illness. I wonder what might pass from one to another. This congregation shares their faith in more. Perhaps the blood of Christ destroys all germs. But to be safe, if the choice were mine, I'd rather be a wafer dipper than a goblet sipper. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm going to unmute everyone so that you all can give Richard a round of applause. Okay. You guys can unmute and let us know how much we appreciate it.
Richard.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks.
Richard, that was just a wonderful journey. So much compassion in your work. I'm so far today, I've been so moved by so much. Possibly not the bombing, but everything else.
Right.
Oh, we've never been Zoom
Right.
bombed before, so that was interesting.
It's a first, Richard.
Yeah, that's the first, and and that will be the last.
Yes, we're hoping it's, we really hope it's the
different.
last.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank
now
you,
the
Maggie.
beautiful Carmen Bugan. Carmen is a George Orwell Prize Fellow, has authored 5 poetry collections, most recently Lilies from America, New and Selected Poems, which received a PBS special commendation, a memoir, Burying the Typewriter, Childhood Under the Eye of the Secret Police, Seamus Heaney and East European Poetry in Translation, Poetics of Exile, and Poetry in the Language of Oppression, which is essays. Carmen teaches at many prestigious universities, currently at the Gotham Writers' Workshop in Manhattan. She's a dear friend and a wonderful, wonderful writer, and please help me welcome her. Carmen Bugan.
Thank you so much. It's really, for me, it's a wonderful thing to be able to be with you today, and I see lots of friendly faces on a screen. I just wanted to say that there is, at the very beginning of the chat, an announcement about poetry reading that I host here at Literary Excursions on poetry and medicine. Richard will be launching his book there. There is going to be a launch of an anthology hosted by the editor, the main editor, Kathy Donnelly, who is a nurse, a cardiologist nurse. I really look forward to seeing many of you at the at that event, which is on February 7th. There is the Zoom link and everything else. So in a fall, I published this book of essays called Poetry and the Language of Oppression. Let me see if I could bring it closer to the screen. You can't quite see it on the screen there. It's a book of essays on my journey as a poet and what the language of oppression does, but also on the power of the healing power of poetry, personal healing, and also healing from political oppression in general or social oppression in general. What I'd like to do is to start with a poem, one of my poems that I discussed in this book, and I'll read that. It's called The Divorce. The poem talks about my parents being forced to divorce in Romania because my father was a political dissident and he was imprisoned for his resistance to Ceausescu's dictatorship during the Cold War. And you will see that there's another divorce I'm talking about in the recent poems, very recent about, so that's, I'm linking them both as a life story. The Divorce. Before they brought him to the courtroom, they gave him 3 apples. Your wife sent you these. He cradled each apple in a cup of his hands. The smoothness of their skin became the cheeks of each child. Inside the courthouse, there was a quiet opening and closing of doors. A crowd of people was chanting his name under the windows. When the door opened, I saw his bare feet in brown shoes. His children held each other tight against the wall. Their breaths, white with cold, were rising toward the ceiling. They listened for the voices of their parents. When the divorce was over, he was allowed to see them. They kissed his chained hands, promised to be good, let their tears fall on his prison uniform with his own, all 3 of them bearing him. How I wished we could hide him with our bodies and take him home. The Securitate peeled us off him, but we wore the apple seeds left to grow in the sound of his chains on the cement floor. I'm going to read now several very recent poems that are self-explanatory. And then they're about my little family, my own little family. One of those 3 apple seeds grew into a tree and she had her own family. The Hook, for Alessandro, for my husband. Still sea, stilled in the morning heat, limpid sky with nimbus building up somewhere between the cardinal directions. And the water, clean as a lens. I walked slowly through the receding tide ahead of you, since we stopped walking together a long time ago. Long enough that now my mind rejoices in the moment. There it was, a fish with bluish fins, trapped by a hook and forgotten there together with the hook, dying in pain while the horseshoe crab walked by. By the time you caught up with me, I saw it was still moving, and I saw the hook in its mouth. The summer of separation must have been like my hand pulling the hook very gently out of the mouth of the fish. You barely convinced to keep it still so that I could work out that last twist of wire. its mouth open and trusting, its eyes wide, understanding my touch and the shape of hook. I was distant, focused only on seeing the fish back in the deeper water. You were stunned, holding its body in our daughter's t-shirt, unknowing, unknowable, even as I coaxed it, and it swam alive and free, disappearing, while I looked up at the faces of the children, trying to explain how it started a second life. The fish, nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be seen, and you left with the hook and the line in your hands. This is all in chronological order. The garden tells a different story. So we stepped into silences that lengthen each day like roads with nothing on them, barren and foreboding, where no one can tell cardinal directions, and we mostly stand still. But the garden tells a different story. Cosmos bipinatus, brightly lit around the vegetable bed, hugs the marigolds, the blossoming, burgeoning melons. The flowers are perfectly formed. Their harmonious thoughts with the fertile center, surrounded by unfolding words that hold the essence in wholeness. Our garden says there are pathways and surprises. If you look under the leaves, you'll find blooms, baby peppers, purple eggplant flowers delicate as silk, bees on marigolds. And yet it knows, as I know, about the impending frost that will sting the late tomatoes, kill the lemon balm, freeze the fennel leaves, burn the roses like misplaced hope. Diseased and late in season, drawing the weakening warmth of the sun and shivering in lengthening nights, the garden still insists that you and I can sustain a harvest. In the last few months, my son has been playing the cello like crazy. And this is called like cinquantain. So this is for Stefano. You say the cello has a human voice that speaks to you these late afternoons and nights of family tumult, when the strings of the four of us are plucked again and again against their own music into wires. How your sadness turns the melody into hours that teach me how to listen to the breath of each nervous repetition, the tremulous notes, the liquid trill of inner crying through your fingers and into the hollow wood. Play it, play the instrument, and tell it all until, like me, you are told out, sounded through, and ready for the golden notes of peace to gather upon the strings. Search for the one and only melody that is in you. My heart feels with the tension between what goes in your mind and that which echoes inside the cello. I hear you, my son, and feel with you each loosened string, each one of us leaving this song to start a life anew. Titanium marker. It's the breast you used to kiss long ago. the titanium as small as a grain of rice. And here I am a child again, throwing grains of rice after midnight on the new year to wish a rich harvest to grandparents, parents, and neighbors. My rewards, kisses on forehead and coins, sometimes banknotes to store for January. The marker for the surgeon. And if all is benign, to keep an eye on the area with magnetic imaging. And now I am inside the clamorous machine on a metal bed, thinking of the children's faces as fluttering angels on shut eyelids. I grow aphorisms inside the breast that once fed our children. This year, when I learned to live without love, as the exile comes to live with a wound no one can see, regardless of how is intimated, then entrusted to silence. The word felled the children like an axe, their heads bowed on the kitchen table, with all the gold and curls as in prayer. Do not kiss them after saying that word. Two more. On the other side of us, you asked me to marry you while making morning reflected in a window somewhere in Scotland. And I said, yes. Then we got dressed, went for breakfast, then visited the beach. After you left, the wind picked up the rose petals in the castle gardens and covered the naked lovers in the statue by the fountain. The gardener took off his shirt and I went back to my work at the table at the open window. That night, I was a question without an answer. I slept without clothes, translating. No versions of that morning of our marriage survived time's reading. The first draft was discarded when the first cesarean, when I turned from wife into mother. I remember one walk in Port Meadow when we sailed paper boats that years later became napkin boats. We sailed with our children at tables in different countries. You have now become a stranger with turbulent eyes. It's hard to know what I have become to you. Memories are a stone throws away, but they no longer make mornings out of love. Sometimes you look at me through our children's eyes, and what was us dissolves like images in watercolors. I think I'll end it here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to unmute everyone so that we can all give Carmen a round of applause.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful.
Really beautiful.
Lovely, Carmen.
Thank
Really.
you.
Fabulous.
Your work is just beyond, Carmen. Thank you so much.
I'm just imagining what it would be like for me to start a new language and coming out with words that you have done. So, great respect to you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our open mic. I'm going to call on you all. If you do not want to read, just put your name in the chat and I won't call on you. Otherwise, I will call on you. The first person I would like to call is this lady that writes a poem a day. She's absolutely, I'm definitely her #1 fan, and I told everyone that. So Judy J.R. Turek, I love you. Go at it.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you. Thank you for today. What a wonderful thing to be able to stay warm. So I was, I actually, a beautiful cover book too, pretty purple. I came across this book, this poem today, published, and I've never read it. So, and I thought, oh, today's the day. Bird World. Our backyard transformed to an outdoor theme park resort listed as Bird World on frequent flyer sites like Tree Time and Family Friendly Feather Aviary. Sparrows and swallows, blue jays, finches, robins, and wrens, even a cardinal or two pick our address as their favorite vacation spot. Hummingbirds check in and out so fast, we barely see them. We have 9 cottages, thatched nests tucked into awnings that serve as nurseries during their stay. If we have too many families, they build nests in garage gutters that double as wading pools. Downspouts make great water slides. 24/7 show here at the Bird Paradise. Songs played, replayed at all hours. No reservations required. Surprise guest star a mockingbird stops by. No comic relief when he repeats the same old sparrow song again and again. But when jays crash the party, the joint is jumping with jive, screech, and squawk choruses that entice warblers to join in, woodpeckers to keep the beat. It's enough to make you tap your foot. Overhead, starling acrobats fly from one wind chime to another, spinning, swirling like an overhead tilt-a-whirl until you're dizzy with watching. No need for a net. Sparrows take wing, swoop and dive from tubular chimes to cowbells, making music magic as they carousel across the awning. No brooding here. Mourning doves coo all day, waddle around the midway, admire aerial attractions. Colorful finches peer through forsythia bushes and evergreen branches. Cardinals compete with floribunda roses for county fair ribbons for best in show. In a brisk breeze, tanagers rise the garden spinner like a Ferris wheel. Who could be happier than the larks that park along the pool ledge beside the robins, admiring their reflections? Grackles dip beats into placid pool water, take flight to tell friends perched on telephone wires to crow about this whimsical new amusement park. Yeah, that's my dog in the background who was quiet the entire reading, and I will tell you now he's just decided, oh, mommy's on Zoom. An added attraction, and he's deaf, so I can't even yell at him, so. An added attraction, today I found a fledgling, not fully feathered, paddling in circles in the dog's water bowl below one of the bungalows. Like a wave master, I tipped the bowl with my foot. He rolled the roller coaster wave, shook his feathers, flew off chirking, free water rides. As owners of this local attraction, we've become janitors. Ground crews cleaning up after messy guests, maintenance crew picking up hay and straw from shoddy building practices, renovations never complete before they fly the coop. It's our first year as theme park owners and hope it's a seasonal crowd. We shudder to think, oh, what winter might bring. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Nina Yubel. Yes, and thank your dog Munchie. This is Munchie, right?
That's actually Snickers, who is 13 and deaf, and just, you know, I could yell and he doesn't hear me. The other two are quiet though. But thank you.
Okay. All right. So Nina Yubel is doing our film Poetry Street on the Road. She's on episode number 3, which is on our website. Nina Yubel.
Thank you, Chip. What a beautiful day. Absolutely beautiful. What wonderful poetry. Really enjoying it. It's melting the snow, as I said. So when we're kids, I guess, the snow that we remember from our childhood just kind of went on and on. For me, this poem is about the long snow. I was born in 43, so I think I was 4 when the big snowstorm hit Brooklyn. The long snow. In the winter of 47, 50, and 55, snow covered the backyard, clung to the splits in the cherry tree like sap to spring cherries, sculpted the willow, bowed limbs, knotty breast, thick fingers. A reeling wind spun snow into mosques, shaped spines along the alleyway, buried the summer cottages. Resplendent, the snow drifted against the church. Nuns in their wide habits shimmered along the walkways. Pellets of gray snow, black snow, funneled to earth, covering us. The tops of cars, street lamps, fences. Crystals settled into the crevices, came through the windows. My father and I walked carved passages, frozen shapes of children hanging from long lines in multicolored clothing. On the beach, the boys crawled in and out of their new-fashioned igloos, roasted Mickeys at the icy hearth. When the long snow ended, the igloos melted away, the willow claimed its shape, and sap ran from the split bark of the black cherry. The cottages were again crisp daffodils.
Thank you so much, Nina. Evelyn Kendall, if you would please be our next reader.
I'm not going to read one of my poems. I'm going to read a poem by a poet, Paul Laurence Dunbar. My next door neighbors are Dunbars. And because of the hullabaloo about wearing masks and the fact that I make masks as a, not those kind of masks, but when I found this poem of his, I thought I'd read it.
Awesome.
We wear the mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts, we smile and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Now let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. I thought that was pretty powerful.
Absolutely, it definitely was. Pete is a poet that I really love, and I can't wait to get him to feature for us one month. Pete, if you would, could please unmute.
Hello, thank you, Chip. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Everybody's been wonderful. Their love was a face full of ashtray, our bond a wet handshake. I remember the way the sun cut through the haze, the air hung heavy, a pre-slit wrist, a limbo of ended worlds, hostility caked on the walls, an orphan among the wreckage of salvation. I've been claiming the echoes of daggers, a slave to a patchwork of pain, my bones caked in rust, still clinging to crimes I carry in perpetuity. I always wanted to wrap myself around a good morning. Each dawn droned in disappointment. My hope has long been buried in a battlefield. Love flocked in bullets, fully prepared that any thought that might escape my skull to split the earth. I pretend to want freedom, but it's way too close to accountability. I need reckoning. This debt requires blood. I, Victim, drugged from behind, a phantom limb tethered to an everlasting eulogy. On the tough days, I want to get drunk, douse myself in war paint, and burn it all up. I'm just getting sick of waking up piled in ash. Thank you.
Love your words, love your delivery. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Chip. I appreciate
Karen
that.
O'Brien, would you please read for us? Unmute, Karen.
Hi. This is wonderful to be back here. Thank you for putting this together with the bombing and everything.
Yes,
That was my first experience of bombing, so now I know what it is. This is called home. What a person really desires in life is what feels like home. Home. Is my home the same as your home? No. But we both desire home, that feeling of belonging, of ease amongst despair, hope, love, strife, dysfunction, loss, grief, tenderness, familiar, and even hate. We carry it around wherever we go. We search it out even. When we go as far as we can leave it behind. Home. We recreate it with all its tragedy, warmth, or lack thereof, its pitfalls, its ledges of safety and hope, its insanity and loyalty. Home. To see past its layers of broken and conditioned structure to its essential nest of existence is to create home of a different kind, one of settled desires of something else, a recognition that what was given was enough. For what arose from its chaos or order was you, was me, and we are enough.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Vivett, would you like to read next? Thank you.
I actually, sorry to say this, I wrote this while you guys were reading. It's called Spared from the Dumpster. Spared from the dumpster we are, awaiting, hoping to be remembered for leaving something other than a stain. Past the security cameras, the barbed wire restraints, social constraints, complaints, why bother? The dumpster is lined with broken promises and unrivaled disappointments, dreams and dreamers deferred, or never even realized, fomenting mistakes and outtakes too numerous to recount, filled to the brim with restraints, failed attempts, words spoken in anger or not at all when a single word was needed most.
Wow.
Wow, thank you. Vivett, where are you from?
I'm one of Judy's people. She discovered me under a toadstool in a park in the borough of Queens.
I understand. I understand. You're in good company.
Oh yes.
Gladys Henderson is the
plenty of fungus to go around.
That purple poet, she just
Wonderful.
poisoned us all with her kind words and her mystic way that she write a poem a day. I can barely write a poem a month sometimes. Gladys Henderson is the mother of Poetry Street. We love Gladys. She's also featured on the film Poetry Street on the Road, which is found on our website. Gladys Henderson.
Yeah, thanks. Chip, what a great day to spend. Is snow and all. I couldn't wait for it. I've been missing you all, and And I am so glad I could see your faces again and to hear your wonderful poems. What a great reading. Well, and I mean, anyone who didn't come to this really missed a really event. That's the bottom line. So this poem is about time, and because it's about time, I repeat the poem. It's not a long poem, but it is repeated the way time repeats itself and gives its opportunity and then is gone. Today, nothing changes the arc of light. It moves as it must, falls behind us. Used well or not, no time for the luxury of review. When the minute expires, it cascades as ash, dissolves into a cosmic sea that accepts everything, for better or for worse. Nothing changes the arc of light. It moves as it must, falls behind us, used well or not, no time for the luxury of review. When the minute expires, it cascades as ash, dissolves into a cosmic sea that accepts everything, for better or for worse.
Oh.
Thank you so much, Gladys. Herb Gunnar.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's see. Did I unmute?
Yes, you're good, Herb.
Okay. Yeah. Just for the record, Herb Gunnar, and actually, this is my son's lap type. So he's Herb the fourth. I'm Herb the third. So he goes by Herb Gunnar. But
Okay.
it's a Swedish name. Herb Gunnar Wallstein is my full name. Whatever. Anyway, this poem was published in the latest issue of Long Island Quarterly. Los Angeles, California, 6 a.m., 6th Street, July 10, 1974. She crawls out from under a newspaper comforter like a lizard crawling out from under dead leaves. Oh dear, are we getting bombed again?
No,
I hear
we're good.
Yeah.
Good.
it sounds like we're.
Yeah, this static.
I'll try to read over it, I guess. All right. Los Angeles, California, 6 a.m., 6th Street, July 10, 1974. She crawls out from under a newspaper comforter like a lizard crawling out from under dead leaves. Her skin is rotten tomato red, soot black, and old newspaper yellow. The surrounding buildings are battered and tattered like her body and clothes. The dawn is gray like her hair and hopes. She slithers along the sidewalk, very invisible to passing garbage collectors, delivery drivers, undocumented Native Americans, 9 to a van, and driving to $2 an hour hard labor. In fact, to all around, except the police and the poet. The police place her battered body into the back seat of a police car. A poet places her mortal being into a poem. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. Karen Schulte is our next poet. Thank you so much, Herb.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful poetry on this really stormy, miserable day. And I'm so happy to see so many people that I know and love. This poem is called Memoriam in Southampton. Walking the campus late afternoon, I find myself on a small hill looking down at a brick building, its glass door open to a main square, with students streaming from classrooms in a rush to be somewhere, never looking up from their phones while their fingers caress messages with lightning speed, tapping a staccato of letters, arrows, dots, missing the lone willow tree, a few steps from them, or the small plaque under it, neatly placed on fresh mowed grass in memory of a woman, name etched in raised white letters with dates of her birth and death clearly seen, telling us no more than she was loved by someone who grieved at her passing, leaving her there by students who barely notice. If she could, would she be among them, scurrying for her phone, her iPad, leaving messages to say she was alone, was lonely? Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen. Mindy Cronenberg with one of our features, Poetry Street on the Road.
Thank you so much, Chip, Vivett, Richard, Carmen, everybody. What a pleasure on like people were saying, snowy day. Won't stop the poets on Zoom, though. This is called Not Ready. It's kind of about a chosen temporary form of denial. Not ready. I was not ready to accept your death, so I let it go for another day. Imagine that as I fed the plants and dusted the shelves, that you were still waiting for your physical therapy session, and would then make a final decision on the clothes you would bring to travel north to be with your family. I put the notion of your demise aside as I did my weekend cleaning, adjusting the objet d'art from our excursions, the books we shared, the photos of our trips. I made dinner thinking that you had just turned up your nose at the pedestrian fare they served you in the facility, that you settled back in bed with your tablet, and that I had time to call you before dark. After all, when the phone rang at 4 a.m., it might have been a dream, a bell breaking the stupor of exhaustion, the break sweat worry searing through slumber.
Thank you so much, Mindy. Our next poet, you know her by Maggie Bloomfield. And she is an incredible poet. She actually, can you tell us, Maggie, about the award that you recently received from the PPA?
Sure, I'm very honored and grateful to have won one of several first prizes for a poem for the PPA Journal. And then I also won for a haiku. So I was a double winner that day, and I'm very, very honored and grateful. Thank you.
Nice.
I'm actually going to read a poem today that is not written by me. It's written by my sister. And my sister is not well, and she actually was on for a few minutes under her aide's name, but I promised her I would read her poem, so I'm going to do that. It's called The Best Laughter. We prepared the food and dined until something made us laugh. You laughed until the hiccups came, until holding yourself, you ran down the hall into the bathroom, body and soul set free. Then, calmly, we resumed our meal. We had to eat. No one can live on laughter. We tried to get by with smiles and chuckles, with attitudes of grown-up amusement. But you were too witty to let me rest. You spoke, I spoke, and there we were, back from adulthood, like two giddy teens who still thought that our lives were funny. And that author is Anne Shelley.
And we wish Anne all the best. We sure do. Leslie Simon, if you could please be our next reader. Leslie, if you can unmute.
Thank you, Chip. I had two cats that I loved, and this is a poem that I wrote about them. the open window. She loves to watch the cats charge into the room when they hear her open the window. The sun's embracing vision shines complete. Laying in the sun's warmth, eyes squinting, deep in silent thoughts, Izzy and Vinny stand sentry for a soaring bird. Izzy, regal in his burnt orange coat, his cousin Vinny, purest of silver snow, both exquisite in their royal Siberian fur. Sweet dreams bathe in the summer's kindness, sheltered in their right for contentment, free from neglect, safe in love. Like a mother, she cares for them, sings to them when they walk into the room, gives them treats. The cousins purr in rhythm. Watching them now, she's reminded of her childhood, wishes she had also been cherished. For a little girl, innocent of harm, shines love and protection she craved for the child within her. The cat's delight in her tenderness, a birthright she should have known herself. Love in a mother's touch changes everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that nice poem, Leslie. Michael Cunningham will be our next reader. Mr. Cunningham, where are you from?
I'm from Queens.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to read a poem about coin collecting. I was going to mention that it's a coin that's going to feature Maya Angelou on the back of the quarter. So I figured I would do this one. This is called I Hold a Nickel. My father left a jar of coins on the shelf on top of the closet. I found it while cleaning out the house, soon to be sold. It was so well hidden, I almost missed it. In the jar, I found an old nickel. The one with the buffalo pulls me in. In 1938, we were replaced by an image of Monticello, the home of Thomas Jefferson, a man who raped a black girl and then had children with her. A man who, at the end of his life, let members of their family be sold into slavery to pay off his debts. Maybe someone needed the buffalo to disappear. The picture of the great animal, a thorn in the mind of America, how they were hunted for their horns, for their hides, for sport, shot from trains left to rot, butchered meat on the green grass prairies, hunted to near extinction. But then I hold you, your call like an echo in a cave. But then, January 6, 2021, an angry mob attempts a coup. Among them, a man wearing a buffalo headdress. As he storms the Capitol, his sick skin inside you, how like a virus, like a gaping wound. The mob throwing American flags at police into glass, the war paint of white boys pretending, their savage cry of entitlement in the place that made this tiny grace.
Wow, that was pretty powerful, Michael. Wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that. Megan, could you please unmute and be our next reader?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. It was great to be here today. This is called Empathy for a Snowflake. Snowflakes chime, wisps of tinfoil sink into my skin. Water replaces flakes of delicate lace. I wonder how it feels to change form so often, how it feels to blend into blankness with your fellows. Relief to not stand out, painful to lose your identity. Soon, these flakes will melt, countless silent prayers sublime. They will step into their journeys of nourishing the earth. I walk through the field of flakes, my footfalls swaying their futures. Breath melts another flake, crystal liquefies, absorbs my quiet gratitude. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Adam Fisher, that was very nice. And we have snow right here in Long Island.
That's why I chose
18
it.
inches of it. Okay, Adam.
All right, thank you. Actually, I enjoyed Downton Abbey, like many of you, or probably most of you. But it occurred to me at the end of what I was watching that this is really the English version of Gone with the Wind. And so here is this poem, The Real Downton Abbey. A dream takes me back to the 18th century where I'm standing in an elegant English room, complete with hand-woven carpets from India and highly polished mahogany tables, a silver candelabra, and high windows with heavy maroon and gold drapes. A tall woman enters, regal bearing. Her silk gown shimmers in the candlelight. Her white hair artfully arranged on top of her head. She wears an ermine stole around her shoulders. She sits, posture perfect, on the edge of a blue silk chair, sips a small glass of sherry, motions for me to sit and tells me, I'm glad all of this will be gone by your time. She gestures at the opulence of the room. All this is dependent on Caribbean sugar plantation slavery, on our servants so poorly paid, they might as well be slaves, on the cheap labor of the poor here in England. There will be a TV show, Downton Abbey. Remember, it is a cruel whitewash.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah. Hiram LaRue, did I say your last name correctly?
Yeah, thanks, Chip. Thanks really to Chip and the whole Poetry Street team for helping build this kind of community center on Poetry Street, really almost a house of worship today. Really appreciate it very much. And to Vivett and Richard and Carmen for their showcased work, we're all very, very grateful. The poem that I'd like to read, first off, I'm from Maryland, so I'm down a little bit south of most of you folks. The poem I'm about to read first appeared in a journal called Head Stuff, and it's all about the wonder of stepping outdoors. It's titled, After All. For some reason, you think in a different way when you go outside. It doesn't make any difference if you're in the city or far up in the hills. It doesn't matter if there's time or not, or if it's spring or fall, or what you've had to eat. When you step outside from being in, even for just a minute, you think of bigger things, like how to convince someone of what's important after they're gone, or how to get to 300 years from now by hitchhiking, or no matter what kind of moon is up there, how you should strive to become more and more like butter. Thanks, Chip.
Thank you so much for that. I would like to read something. It's been very hard for me to write during these days, unlike Judy Turek, who writes a poem a day. This is entitled Enough. So many thoughts, ideals engulfed in atmospheric showers of road gases. Spending too much time dodging snares, rotten syncopation, traps like dominoes against the wall, smashing my own dreams. doubt, shame, regret, anger, pain, and the will not to continue asking questions, answering questions. Must we always tell the truth to ourselves at least? We are lost deep down past the bottom of the well in a season of drought, breaking camouflage mirrors as if there was something but nothing left to see or to fight for bigger than a mustard seed. A mustard seed, which in reality is still the perfect amount of faith we need to make it through it all. Thank you. And now I would like to turn Poetry Sheet over to my co-host, Maggie Bloomfield.
Thank you. Did we get everybody? Is there anybody
so.
we
Is there
missed?
anyone that we missed?
Is there somebody we missed?
I think that was it.
Okay, cool. Wow, what a talented group of readers. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming here on this incredible afternoon and for being part of our Poetry Street family. Please come again. I want to take this opportunity to thank the features and possibly if they have a poem to read, please share it with us. Vivett, do you have something?
I need to look for a moment. I'm sorry, I was so enthralled with everyone's reading. I didn't take a moment to look through my own.
That's fine. Richard?
Yeah, I can read an encore poem.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Vivett.
Okay, so this is again a poem from a travel experience. This took place in England, and it's again for my wife, for Susan. At Evesham Abbey, patina of 1,000 steps upon its stones, odor of must, effigies carved on a sarcophagus bearing sanguine smiles. Side by side they rest, Lord Edward and his lady, as they have lain in sleep, passing now through time in their vessel of death. Unconcerned by centuries, oblivious to the march of men, sure in the thought that they who abide now in darkness will rise together in that moment of turmoil and exaltation, love and faith sustaining them in death as in life, while we who have nurtured doubt, practice proof and refutation, cannot know what lies ahead. But having shared our lives, I will risk to share that journey for which none can testify.
Thank you, Richard. Carmen, would you like to read something?
Thank you so much. And I will change the subject altogether with this last poem, which is, we are in January. It's also looking back at the January 6 events, but this is actually the 2021 presidential inauguration. It's the poem I wrote for that occasion. And it came on a day in the Irish Times, so I was happy that I had something to say to this. We must begin with an act of trust, even if it is born in the pillaged room where lawmakers kneel behind their desks as the mob tramples the law. From the senators' papers that bear the prints of vandals' shoes, from the shards of shattered windows, from pepper sprayed in policemen's eyes, and from my daughter's screams, "Mommy, are we going to die?" From this destruction, trust must emerge and be placed in the better life. Every farmer knows the soil will not yield the perennial harvest from a single planting. And the yield of one harvest is a blessing of care. The bread on the table will not knead itself. It takes all day to keep an orderly house. Mothers always have known this. The thinker understands that ideas must suffer countless revisions if they are to stand the test of time. Not all revolutions begin the same. The believer has learned that gratitude, which is invisible, immeasurable, and is born of a willingness to love, is the strongest bond we share. From my child's stunned tears, from the admission that too often all of us got it all wrong, we must begin again to trust and go on. Thank you. Thank you to everybody tonight. I really enjoyed everybody's poems, and it was a pleasure to be with everybody here in this Zoom place that we are. It feels like a party in one's house.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Second that.
Vivett, would you like to close out our program today?
I would be so honored. I'd like to close with a poem entitled A Classroom with One Student. A classroom with one student, it's how life seems to be. When everyone has gone their way, I am left with me. A classroom with one student allows for introspection, flowing streams of consciousness, thoughts of self-reflection. A classroom with one student, each day I will attend, armed with tools of knowledge, life's dissertation to defend. A classroom with one student, it's how life seems to be. For when everyone has gone their way, I am left with me.
Wow, wow, wow. That was so awesome. Okay, we're gonna have to unmute everyone to have a round of applause for all of our features and all of everyone that participated in the open mic. Please join us next month. Maggie would tell us who we're gonna have as our features next month.
Thank you all so much. This was just an amazing afternoon of talent and caring and compassion and poetry. Next month, we're going to feature Jim Banks, who's known as Dr. Love. Is that correct, Chip?
Yes.
Yes. He's a wonderful poet who's also very political in the town of Southampton. You will love hearing him. He's very powerful. And our second feature is Peggy Dobrier, who is a California poet I had the privilege of working with in a workshop. She's going to bring the West Coast to Poetry Street on February 26th. So I hope you will all join us again. Hopefully the snow will be a little less, but the enthusiasm will be just as great. Thank you all for a wonderful day.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Maggie.
Be safe, everyone.
Thank you, Vivett.
Thank you all. Stay safe.
Thank you, Chip, for keeping us safe.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Safe and warm.
Love you, Carmen. Love you all.
Wonderful to
Stay
see
warm.
you, everybody again.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
See
Carmen.
you at your reading.
Bye.
Yes.
Thanks, Herb.
Love you.
And thanks, Herb the
Love
fourth.
you.
Thanks, Chip.
Bye. Thanks, Michael and Megan.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Herb.
Okay. Bye-bye,
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Good to see everybody again. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Nina.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye, Herb. Bye-bye, sweetie. Bye-bye.
Bye, Gladys.